what are some of the? I saw you posted some examples of places where some of the issues around Islam are with regards to, unemployment, incest, things that are not British values that are going to become more prominent here.
So Bradford is one of the most worrying places in terms of we're seeing a lot of cousin to cousin marriages, which naturally when they have children, we know if it's especially from a first cousin, the chance of a birthing defect is more than double. So this poor child comes with a disadvantage from the moment they're born.
What are the sort of percentages around that?
So I think between 2007 and 11, there was around more than 30% of British Pakistanis in Bradford were married to a first cousin.
That's insane.
Which is an astronomical amount. And this is what's interesting because, I did this post not that long ago, and naturally you're going to get the usual stuff that you get on social media. But a lot of the information I got from was from the BBC. So the BBC, maybe, they obviously would never do this now, but 10, 15 years ago, they did a documentary on the impact of cousin marriages. Mm-hmm. And Widespread did really well. It was really eye-opening. It was just, trying to educate the community to stop it. And there was some really good British Pakistanis who spoke, basically against cousin marriages in the documentary, who speak really well and saying, this is educated ones who are saying this is wrong, this is immoral, this is awful on the child, forget about customs and traditions that you may think are normal. We know for a fact, scientifically amazing. There is no chance that BBC would do a documentary like that now. There's no chance. They would never have the courage to. They did it before. They would not do it again. They would not do it now. And that's the really sad, unfortunate thing, is because the people who are actually going to get the pain of this are these children who have had it's not their decision that this is happening, right? And so I think that's awful. Sets a bad precedent for the rest of the country. Forget even talking about that. I think it's just that's a serious problem.
Strain on the health services, presumably, as well.
Well, strain on the NHS. Well, that was part of the documentary. There's even one on Netflix. I don't know the name, but there's one on Netflix that shows this as well, in terms of, it's a really old, again, documentary done on this in Britain, like 10, 15 years ago, on the impact of largely cousin marriages and the impact it has on children. It's really sad because you get to see the children and the consequences of that, and it's just not fair. So that's an example of it. But what's again fascinating is, we won't necessarily show much attention to that. We won't talk, which is happening in our country now, but we'll constantly talk about white privilege, white guilt, 24/7. Even though white boys in this country are some of the worst performing people academically, both on literacy and numeracy rates, and I cannot emphasize how awful that is for everyone. Whether you're my skin color or a different skin color, black, white, or brown, because the majority of the labor force in this country is white men, right? Naturally, white women, or women in general, tend to have children, and naturally they spend time out of the workforce. Sometimes they never return, sometimes for 3-4 years out, sometimes 1 year, whatever. The majority of the workforce, if you're going by a gender and going by a race, it's white men. And so if the white boys are going to turn into men one day, they're getting less educated and they're getting less productive, and they're on a downward spiral. That's going to impact our economy. That's going to impact the job I can get, the job that a black person can get, the consequences of Britain in general. So, but that will never really be spoken about. That will never be addressed. It will never be really made a priority. And so if they really wanted to care about race or whatever, then that would be the target, surely. Obviously, there shouldn't be no focus on race. You should just be going to school to get educated and get smarter. But I can't help but think there is some of that, some of the decline in white boys has come from this white guilt, this white privilege. I think it's making, in particular, the boys feel very low on confidence. I think it's probably making them suppressed. And these are all terrible things for boys to do. And Jordan Peterson and so many other people will talk about it much better than me. But, I think we're slowly destroying masculinity in this country. I think anything remotely masculine is considered toxic. We celebrate femininity in men and we celebrate masculinity in women. And I think on a broader scale, on a social scale, that is terrible. And I think those impact you can really see in particular with white boys. I think the impact on their future right now is bleak, and I think we should be really talking about that. And I think that should be a much bigger emphasis.